Lean in right now to hear the story of the Hyundai Assurance Plan.
So Hyundai was presented with WALKAWAY, the proposition of WALKAWAY, in March of 2008. And it didn't go anywhere. We had been knocking on doors. We have presented to Chrysler in downtown Detroit. We pitched General Motors in downtown Detroit. We spoke to Ford. We were pitching OEMs on the proposition of selling a car or selling your vehicles with the ability for the consumers who buy them, the ability to return it if something were to happen during their ownership. And, we were getting nowhere. So all of a sudden, we all know what happened in September of 2008 with the Lehman Brothers bank failure and, the global financial crisis. And the markets were just like nosediving and the news was all bad. The markets were tanking. And Hyundai came, they said, we're interested. We didn't really know how interested, but after the first week in November, we found out how interested. They were going to market, and they had purchased all of General Motors' ad space for the Super Bowl, Barack Obama's inauguration, Academy Awards, the NFL playoffs, which was the wild card game on January 2nd of 2009. And they were talking to us basically at the end of November. So they had a ton of motivation. I don't know what they paid for the ad space, maybe 20, 25, 30 cents on the dollar from General Motors at the time. And they had no plan B. We were their plan. We signed the deal New Year's Eve at 5 p.m. local time, Eastern Standard Time. And the ads ran January 2nd. From the day they said go to the day the ad launched was 35 days. That's
not even to be believed.
That's like, it is insane, okay? Like, can you imagine dealing with a global manufacturer and they have this program and boom. We saw the first ads and they were voiced over by Jeff Bridges.
Hyundai Assurance. Now finance or lease any new Hyundai. And if you lose your income in the next year, return it to us with no impact on your credit.
They just knocked the cover off the ball. The blogosphere went crazy. Hyundai Assurance, I think, was in the top 15 or top 10 Google searches for the first 3 weeks of January. It was crazy. And it just made such an impact. National media picked it up. Every news story picked it up. It was unbelievable how much press Hyundai got for that deal.
For it fitting Hyundai though, Vincent, you can pick back up. But where Hyundai was at, they weren't as hot as they are now, right?
Not at all. No.
I mean, they had some stigma at that moment.
Mm-hmm. They overcame that stigma very quickly. Why isn't this being promoted by an American maker or American OEM? Like, where's Ford? Where's GM? Where's Chrysler? And people were, this is a time when people were super insecure. And just to tell you how effective it was, and as you open up, the most effective automotive incentive in history, and you say it's probably never going to be, beaten or duplicated. And that's probably true because, you'd have to have the timing that Hyundai had as it relates to, the timing of introducing assurance when you're buying a car. I still think it's totally applicable to everyone's life today. Nothing's guaranteed, and being able to return your car and being able to return a purchase is the cornerstone of retail. Hyundai beat the market by 30%. Okay, in 2009.
Explain what that means if we don't know it beat the market by 30%.
The market in 2009 tanked, okay? It dropped 22% in 2009. Hyundai beat the market, or beat their year-over-year sales by 9%. So they are 8%, sorry. So the market was down 22, they were up 8.
There you go, so 30% ahead of market. Got it. Makes sense.
So no incentive has ever had that effect since and probably never will, because the timing of the global financial crisis, of course, the lack of consumer confidence was rife. People still had to buy a car. But if you're going to buy a car during the global financial crisis and you can give it everyone was afraid of losing their job. Say, hey, it's relatively risk-free. So January 2nd, the first commercials launched. Hyundai dealers had no communication before this, okay? They saw a commercial on and go like, holy shit, what's that? So I mean, there was no communication to Hyundai dealers. They didn't have time, like boom. And you start selling cars and we had to basically launch dealers, train them, and it was all done digitally and electronically over our portal. And 2009, that's still, it's still relatively new technology for some dealers in the car business, right? When I started in 2000, Jeff, some car dealers didn't. I mean, we issued every policy from the day we started over the internet, and we were we were the first. I'm sure the first insurance portal in the automotive business to issue policies over the internet, and people we couldn't sign up some dealers because they didn't have the ability to go online. Like seriously, and people were using dot matrix printers. Like the F&I office was still using dot matrix printers with self-duplicating copies, and a laser printer in the business office was like. Our underwriter at that time was Great American, okay, out of Cincinnati, and yeah, fantastic story, fantastic success story of Carl Lidner Jr. and his two sons. Carl Lidner Jr. at 90 years of age was watching the NFL playoffs, the wild card game on January 2nd. And he saw the first Hyundai Assurance ad and he said, what idiot is underwriting that? And I think on Monday morning he found out it was him and they canceled the program. John Papanastis is the CEO of EFG. And he's got to scramble to find an underwriter to, keep this deal going. And he does. He scrambles and gets it done. And, unfortunately for Great American, it ended up being a very profitable program. It's unfortunate that, a knee jerk like that. But a lot of people thought the same thing when I first started. They thought, oh, you're going to get killed in your underwriting. I knew all the stats. I was the guy that did all the research for the product from day one. I think I knew my numbers pretty well, and it bore out correctly. I did 1/2 course of actuarial science in university and 1/2 course in stats. And if it wasn't for Tom, he helped me on a couple of exams by looking over his shoulder. I really did work day and night. I really did almost go broke. Thank God my business partner was a car dealer who held the paper on my leased car because I wasn't making payments. I thank my landlords at the time for allowing me to, be late on rent when I was. I couldn't pay parking ticket. I drove my car to my office and I parked and I stayed there well past the parking permit, allowable, and I would get parking tickets. I couldn't pay my parking fines. I couldn't get my license sticker renewed because I couldn't afford to pay the parking tickets. I'd withdrawn all my RSP, like my personal savings and my what we call in Canada RRSP. I literally was on fumes, and with the passion of providing people who bought cars with meaningful coverage to save them when their life went off the rails.